Well, good evening, folks. Welcome along to your Monday Night Rabble here on the Raiders Rabble podcast, or the Rabble Network. I'm not entirely sure which one we're calling it these days, but we'll go with it. We will obviously have a chat about all things Rangers. 4-0 smashing of Aberdeen yesterday, although it was more of a second half smashing than a full 90 minutes. We'll certainly delve into that because I think we can all agree it's about time we gave them one. And of course, as the title suggests, I guess we'll have a chat about the next manager odds. Some interesting movement of late, and the odds for who's the favourite to take over as the new permanent manager in the summer. So we'll certainly delve into that, and I'm sure loads more beside. Of course, you can get your comments in as well. At any points you want to make, and we'll bring that up and we'll put that to the lads. Joining me this evening to go over proceedings is a man who is becoming a bit of furniture on the afternoon rabble, it's fair to say, but a man who will also be happy with the exploits of the women's team this weekend. It is Bryan Fodingham. Bryan, how you doing?
Very good, thanks. Yes, we just finished the women's pod, so it's all systems go for the next week. It's Hibs Hearts on Wednesday. It's Hibs on Sunday. It's going to be a nervous few days for the women's supporters, and many of the especially Cara and all the girls that go to all the games. So yeah, it's a nervous few days ahead. But I guarantee you they would have took that position if they were offered it a few weeks ago, because it wasn't looking very good for the women's team. They were struggling. It was looking really dodgy, but they've got themselves in a good position now. It's about finishing the job off. And a quick word to obviously the team that I'm wearing tonight, Hamburg, who have finally managed to get over the hurdle of getting promoted back to the Bundesliga. I've never been so happy for a team in my entire life. They have taken
how many of their own supporters did they nearly kill in the process?
Oh, jeez. 57,000 rammed into the arena, and wow, some scenes at the end, but congratulations to Hamburg HSV on getting back to the top flight where they belong.
Yes, well done to them. Yes, no such stresses for my other club, thankfully, this weekend, Bryan. But I know we've done the women's podcast, but I will ask you just one quick question before we bring in Trev. Can they actually beat Hibs in a league game, having had back-to-back 3-0 thrashings?
Well, this is the thing. They've had 3-0 thrashings in the league, but yet it was 5-0 in the cup finals. So hopefully if the games go the way they are, 3-0, 5-0, 3-0, 5-0, I'll take that all day. But I mean, it's on grass, it's at Ibrox, it's a bigger pitch. I would say our team's slightly fitter, so I'm kind of hoping with with all that thrown into the mix that the women will do the job. And I'm just thinking now that surely with everything that's on the line, and all the sort of good things that come with that, they want silver things. So let's just hope they can get it over the line.
It would be nice, yeah. It would be nice to have a Rangers team lifting a league title this season, Trev. Trev, how are we?
I never got such a broad introduction as Bryan, and then Bryan's came back with an even better intro, man. I'm just going to continue the theme of my shite introduction. We're going, I need bad yourself. I'm over in Denmark for work. That's where the company HQ is. So I thought I'll get decent internet, which I do. I'll jump on because I'm knackered to blow out the night with the guys. Get the beers in tomorrow instead. And I was going to ask you about your shirt, Bryan, but I'm glad you told us who it was, because that's the team we're getting affiliation with, isn't it? Rangers, aye. Yes. So that's good to see. I was chuffed, but I mean, then they smashed up some of their own fans. A lot of them seriously hurt, man. I was like, wow, okay. And I'm excited about the women's team as well. And I'm not normally, no offence, like if you like the women's team, I respect that. But I thought I saw the difference of points at the top of the women's table, and I was like, there's 6 with 2 games to go. And then you answered my question. Hibs is one of them. Are we playing them in the first, the next game of the game after? Last game?
The last game at Ibrox.
The very last game. I need to go. Listen, see everyone watching, if you can, get as many people in Ibrox as you can. It'll be cheap. It'll be cheap. Let's get it going. Let's someone bloody win the league. A Rangers team win the league this year.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice, and for all intents and purposes, that will be a cup final, assuming that they get over the line against Hearts. Anyway, that's obviously a topic of conversation for the lads and lasses to cover in the next women's show, which will either be the happiest show that Abel's done all year, or it'll be grim. Which is being in keeping with the theme of the season. But either way, you should tune in and absolutely get yourself down. You know, it doesn't cost a lot of money. There's not many opportunities to get into Ibrox as cheaply as you do for a women's game.
No. And it is Sunday.
One hand, I'm glad it's at Ibrox because it's such a big occasion. But on the other hand, the Rangers women team don't perform well at Ibrox. And of course, it would have been handy for me if it was at Broadwood, given that I stay 5 minutes up the road. But nonetheless, evening to everybody in the comments, of course, as well. Some of the usuals joining us this evening, so good to see everybody. Brian, okay. One place to start. Yesterday, I don't know if you made it along to the game or if you were busy elsewhere, but Rangers 4, Aberdeen 0 was the end result. But before we talk about the second half and the improvements, the first half was a bore fest. It was much of the same as what we've seen at Ibrox of late from Rangers. Aberdeen, to my surprise, with the fact they've still got third to play for, and Hibs losing it at Parkhead on Saturday afternoon, didn't feel like they turned up, and that's not a sentence you say often when it comes to Aberdeen playing Rangers. So it didn't make for a great spectacle on the sunny afternoon that was yesterday.
No, it certainly didn't. I was watching it on a phone around a table at a golf club, and there was Aberdeen fans, there was Rangers fans, and you can imagine when the Aberdeen player says, or Aberdeen fan says, "Oh, Rangers have scored, but it's offside." And of course, I didn't even have to ask twice who that was. It was obviously Cyril Dessers. So yeah, the first half was pretty abysmal. Couple of chances here and there, but it's really. This first half stuff's got to. This is the thing that's been scuppering us. You know, we're just lucky that we didn't give two goals of a start like we normally do. Thankfully, we didn't concede in the first half, so at least when we did get that first goal, you kind of, the way the game was going, you felt as though if we got the first, we weren't going to lose because you didn't feel Aberdeen were going to really do much. But that, yeah, the less said about that first half, the better. It was pretty abysmal, not great. And as you said, it's been symptomatic of the season. The first half have been very, very poor, and it's difficult to put your finger on it. But I'm just glad we actually, as you said at the start, we gave them a doing, because they've been due one for a while.
They have been. You know, it has felt like a long time, Trev, since we have really give them a doing. You know, we've had some really tricky ties against them. We've seen earlier in the campaign, you know, the first game when we went up to Pataudry and they had all the bells and whistles out for that, you know, the firework displays. And that game. You'd have thought it was a Champions League game, the way that they behaved, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, but that was the circumstances at the time. We were third, they were second. They obviously felt they were going to be in a title race this season. So look how that turned out. But when you looked at it yesterday as well, Trev, it was notable that Ibrox, you know, was not full. It was an emptier stadium, and I think that's symptomatic of A, the season, but B, the last 7 games at home before yesterday. I mean, I was in attendance for at least 2 of those games, myself and Alex, and they were poor, really poor. We had higher hopes going to the Hibs game because you felt maybe, you know, Barry's first game at home, we'll get that bounce, we should get a result. Second game at home, I should say. Didn't quite transpire out that way, and that kind of put me off, because I know Alex was saying that as well, that we consider him going yesterday, but I think the 12 o'clock kick-off in the recent form certainly put me off, and I think a lot of people were in the same boat.
Yeah, if it hadn't been for the fact that it was Aberdeen, I wouldn't have went. And I know that'll piss some people off, go to every single game, but I'm sorry, you do you, I'll respect what you want to do. I pay for a season ticket. If I don't want to go, I used to get upset about people like that done that, and then I just was like, whatever, it's your money. I go to 9 out of 10 of the games. I even signed up for the CCS for the pre-season friendlies and all that for next season and get right in amongst it. because I'm trying to chase the wealth tier. Sorry, no, not the goal tier. No one will get anywhere near the wealth tier when it comes to my jersey. But I did want to go. I couldn't make the game on Wednesday because of my way with work, but I don't think I would have went to that anyway. That's going to be, they talking about being quiet. Wait till you see United midweek. That'll be really quiet. As Brian said, not an amazing game in the first half. Certainly a game of two halves. The second half, I really enjoyed. I really did enjoy the second half. Missed the fourth goal because I go to football with Ash, and some people may know, and she's the driver, so I blame her if we leave early. 100% throwing her under the bus. But no, we missed the fourth goal, but I heard it was a bit of a riot, that goal. So, and it's about time. Excuse my French, as someone said in the chat, that the sheep get shagged. So justice has been done, and we move on.
Yes. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I will just say, for Martin's benefit more than anything else, that those are the views held by Trev and the person who commented, and not the Rangers Ramble podcast.
100%.
We unfortunately, Trev, live in these PC times, so you've got to be careful. But
Other animals are available.
Yes, they are. Yes, absolutely. Dear me. I mean, Brian, I'm going to bring up Neil's comment here because I think it's a fair one. He's saying, I must admit, it was pleasing to see us not conceding stupid goals in the sheet game. Kelly did well in goals despite some defensive errors against him. Geez, he's obviously a big fan of Sean, as Neil Anderson. But they always step up in our games. Now, 9 times out of 10 they do. That's why it's surprising when they don't. It was pleasing that we didn't concede silly goals yesterday. But how much of that was down to William Kelly playing well, good defending, and a bit of luck? Because they came mightily close. I mean, they hit the post at one point that, again, if it's a few inches to the left-hand side, it comes off the inside of the post and we're 1-0 down again at home. And that, I think, would have changed the complexion completely of the game. So, whilst it is good we didn't concede, though, sloppy goals, it wasn't necessarily without a lack of trying.
No, there was, as you say, there was a couple of scares where Aberdeen nearly scored. I think Kelly made a good save in the second half, and then they hit the post in the second half. I think he got down to a shot quite quickly as well. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's very unusual for a game like that where a team that are fourth trying for third don't really apply a lot of pressure to the defence and the goalkeeper like Aberdeen. I was like you. I was expecting them to come flying out the traps and be at us, and going just what they normally do. It's like their cup final, and they desperately fell short of their normal sort of applications. Considering, as you said, they've seen the result from the day before and realised they could close the gap. So yeah, I was mightily surprised that Aberdeen were as poor as they were, because they're normally never shy of giving it 110% against us.
No, that is true. Trev, going into the second half, there was a change made by the gaffer, Barry Ferguson. He took off Nadim Bayrami and brought in Hamza Agaman. That seemed to change the tempo in the attacking third for me. He came on and was really, he looked up for it. He looked confident. I've said it before, not everything he tries will often pay off for him, but when it does, it is fantastic. The goal he scores is an absolute belter. He sent Jamie McGrath to the hot dog stand as well at one point, which was just glorious. Although Jamie McGrath's in the bizarre world of a situation where he's playing for Aberdeen, trying to get them third, knowing that if they don't get third, the club that he will be playing for next season will be in Europe. So it's a bit mental. I'm not sure I'd be playing him if I was Jimmy Tilleen, but hey ho. But that did shift the game a bit, bringing on Agaman. Now, in terms of Bayrami going off, I don't know. I think he had a bit of a niggle, and part of it was obviously tactical as well. But I wonder how much of that had to do with the tackle from Tobers on Bayrami towards the end of the half, which I think a lot of people, Trev, felt should have merited a red card, or at the very least a VAR check.
Oh, rant mode engaged. Who was it that done him? Was it that big nose plonker Shinny again?
No,
No,
it
it's
was the
Tobers.
Right.
The
Oh,
other
right,
big nose
okay.
plonker.
I assumed it was Shinny because I mean, how big is that nose, by the way? Jesus, it must have its own bloody postcode. That thing. Rumor has it can open jars of pickles, but it's just a rumor. That tackle was horrendous. The ref, I'm going to say something that's going to shock you all. The ref, I didn't think he had a great game. He let them away with murder. How many challenges you're going to let people away with before you start booking them? I couldn't believe it, but then at the same time I could believe it. Barami, between him and Cortez, I'm really concerned that we've bought someone that costs a lot. We're going to buy someone that costs a lot, and they're both donkeys. And as Barry said, basically, if you read about it, in between the lines, they're not getting a game because they're not good enough. Or sorry, Cortez more so, Barami getting a bit of a game. But I'm glad he come off. You do the right thing, Barry. Mix it up, change it about. Agaman should be playing more. He should have more games. When I saw him come on, I thought he was going to be exclusively on the wing. I won't lie. I was like, here we go. Our best player, one of our best players, few good players, and we're playing him at a position again. I was like, here we go. But he seemed to have a kind of more of a kind of free-ish kind of role, the old Laudo role, where he was just kind of cutting about the top a little bit, and it worked. It really, really worked. He was getting some of the ball. He was doing good things with it, some nice touches, and then that goal, that was that was absolutely fantastic. That I don't understand. Right, if you've got Agaman and you've got Dessers, and you can't play the two together, right? I know you can, but see, you had to pick one. You've got to pick Agaman. Surely, God, he's a better striker in almost every way. But a fantastic goal.
Well, you say that, Trev, but yesterday, Cyril Dessers notched his 26th goal of the campaign. That is now, is it 47 or 48 he's scored over the period he's been here. I mean, he could round this season off with 50 goals in a Rangers shirt, which in 2 seasons, and I make this point again, and I don't care if it makes me Mr. Unpopular, but to me it's the truth. He is already getting to that mark quicker than one Alfredo Morelos, who was lauded by the Rangers fans up until his last season. And the one thing for me is that Dessers' temperament is something you could never question. Whereas with Morelos, there were times you questioned that. How many times they come back for pre-season totally overweight or unfit, for example? Dessers, to be fair to him, gives you everything he's got. You're right in terms of the quality not always being there. But I tell you what, 26 goals for the campaign this year, 22 last year. The numbers are pretty impressive, albeit they probably could and should be even higher.
No, of course, the end bit I was going to add in there, Connor. But it's all right. You come in as host to interrupt me as per you. And you done it very politely. Thank you very much, Connor. Get it right up. Was the only thing that Dessers has got over him is the figures, and the figures count a lot. I mean, he gets so much game time. I was kind of expecting that. Listen, if folk out there like Dessers, I'll respect that. You can't say he's a completely awful player. You can't. The figures would tell you otherwise. Some people like him, some people don't, mate. I'm just in the camp that I'm not a massive fan of him because we've got Agaman who's better and doesn't get a regular start. So I think, listen, if Dessers stays at the club, I don't have a massive problem with that. But we should be starting better players over him if we have better players. Again, Agaman or whoever else we bring in. If he hangs about, not a bad deal. He's got the figures, he'll get the figures, mate. I just get frustrated when he misses a bloody sitter and then he walks away smiling. I thought, I want to punch you, man. It's no funny. But I just get, I get caught up in the moment. So, aye.
I mean, my take, I don't know if you've heard it on the afternoon rabble, but my take is, I said a couple of seasons ago he wasn't our number 9, or he's not he shouldn't be our number 9. I don't think he works hard enough off the ball. I think he misses far too many gilt-edged chances. I just don't think, as I say, I said it a couple of years ago, we won't win anything with him as our number 9. And unfortunately, I wasn't proven wrong because I'd love to have been proved wrong. But I know he's not, you could argue, the butt of all the problems, but I think even going forward from now on, he's still not our main number one. But it's all opinions. But I've just never felt him to be a out and out number one for us.
Do you think, Brian, to pick up on Trev's point as well, right? And again, no, it's all about opinions. That's what this game's all about. And you know, as host, I also have to put forward the opposite side of the debate as well, because there are people, I can see them in the comments who are making those points. With Dessers and I mean, Neil, you are correct, he has, but poor Dado Pursell was very injury prone. Much like Kemar Roof, a man who you know would have scored exponentially more goals if he could have been fit. But of course, the difference with him and Roof is that Pursell had a well-known knee injury that was always going to shorten his career. Having said that, still absolutely love the big man. Him and Nacho Novo, for me, one of the most underrated Rangers front two partnerships. Because they're not regularly mentioned when people talk about the great partnerships. They talk about McCoist and Haitley, they talk about Boyd and Miller, you know, they talk about loads of others, but sometimes Novo and Pursell almost get lost in the shuffle a bit, which is maybe unfair to them. But, you know, with points like that, like, is Agaman going to be capable of notching us 20 goals a season? Or is there somebody out there we can get for a reasonable price that can do that job? Because for me, if you're going to win league titles, you need a striker that is capable of getting you at least 20 goals or close to that mark a season. I think a decent backup striker who gets you 10, 12 goals, not a problem. And by the way, to be fair to Agaman, his numbers are quite impressive for the minutes he's had. I just wonder if he's going to be capable, or do we let Dessers go and then this time next year we go, I tell you what, the big man might have been frustrating, but he was scoring all the goals and we let him go. You know, that's what I worry about.
Well, you could argue the point that we did that with Čolak. Čolak was scoring goals and we let him go. So, you know what I mean? I mean, Dessers is getting the wrong side of 30 now, isn't he? I believe. So, I'm not saying age is a thing, but the age profile doesn't really suit what I would say the team or the the one thing I will say about Dessers is, right, it doesn't matter how much flack he gets, doesn't matter how much abuse he gets, the big lad seems to somehow manage to channel it all out and still manages to concentrate on his football, still manages to, you know, at least give a bit of effort into the game. So that's one bit that I wish everybody else in the team could sort of bottle and use, is his enthusiasm and his effort. But yeah, it's going to be. If somebody gave us a decent fee for us in the summer, I would be inclined to take it, because he's on a hell of a whack of wage as well. You know, I think he's on the guts of 25,000 a week as well. So that's another serious wage that we really could be doing. You know, at least again, you could argue that he's actually earning his money because he's scoring the goals. So at least he's actually, you know, he's earning his crust. So I can't take that away from him. But at the same time, I'll just never get this monkey off my back where I think he's not a number one for us. But
yeah,
well, this year I'll support him.
He's a polarising figure, and that is proven by the fact when you have this debate, it very much is split for almost 50-50. Even in the comments, some people will say, yeah, no, he's useless, get rid of him. Other people saying that, no, you know, you'd keep him. It is that debate. I mean, you get Sniper there saying that he'd sell Danilo before he'd sell Dessers. Yeah. I think Danilo is somebody who, I think he has been unfortunate in a lot of ways. You know, the injuries he's picked up, he gets injured out long term, comes back, scores a goal for St Johnstone, for us against St Johnstone, and in doing so breaks his face, so ends up out again, injured with that. He just can't seem to keep himself fit. But then when he is fit, and I don't know why this is, Trev, and this is obviously, you know, Barry Ferguson is the manager, he sees him day in, day out. Philippe Clement was the same before him. He doesn't seem to be getting more than 5-10 minute spells when he does come on. And I'm like, well, when you're throwing him on with 5-10 minutes to go, you know, hoping he can do something, it's almost unfair on him, because how is he going to do that in games when you're up against it? No. And so I'm not sure why. And bear in mind as well, this is a £6 million striker that we signed, and to be seeing so little of him, it's concerning, Trev.
I have to go on Barry's word by what he says and what he's seen in training. I have to. Is that someone's wash machine on the background?
No, it's
My
That
hearing
is not.
things. Is it
Might be
your?
a,
Oh, Jesus Christ, man! It sounds like I take that into the PC repair shop, man. It sounds like I take that into the PC repair shop for you, man. Jesus. Um, it's. I've got to take Barry up in his word what he's saying. It's not just him that's seen it; it's also his staff that's seen it as well. People that have been around the game and know a player and know who's performing well and who's not. So I have to think that we're saying Cholak's not up to it. Some of the young boys are not up to it. That they're probably not up to it and they're probably not doing enough in training. And if that is the case, let's say it is, that's concerning. Let people at Cortez are not doing well enough, Danilo's not doing well enough. And that's just down to our continued bad spending. Like agreeing to these deals and buying these players in, like based on what? A YouTube reel? Looks like someone we did go on YouTube, right? Who looks good, right? He looks good, 5 minutes, let's sign him. So we're paying for mistakes in the past, Connor. We're paying for these mistakes on like the car salesman and other folk. And you're going to make a loss in Danilo. There's no point. He is a good player. He had nice touches about him. He scored some goals for us when he was fit. But we've just got nowhere near the value out of him, mate. So I would rather. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I would rather we keep Dessers than Danilo.
yeah, the thing is, Brian, right, the reason I say this, right, and we'll shift gears and talk about other things as well. I say it because I'm not convinced that Cyril Dessers is going anywhere in the summer. There seems to be a lot of people of the opinion that he will go. I don't feel that will be the case because I think any new manager coming in is going to take a look at the squad as a whole and go, right, who's the dead wood? Who's the dead weight that I just need to get off the books and free up that wage bill and get people in? And obviously, the takeover as well. We don't know what kind of budgets we'll be dealing with. And I think, as to Ian Thompson's point and some others that people have made, I think guys like Danilo are more likely to be, gotten rid of, even though we spent £6 million on him, right? We're not going to make that back. We'll have to cut our losses. But I think you're more likely to see him go for maybe £2-3 million, and then you get him out the door. I think there's others as well that will probably go first, and that's why I'm kind of thinking. I get the point about saying you're not going to win the league title with Danilo in the squad. I don't with Dessers in the squad. Sorry, I don't think that's just solely on him because, quite frankly, Brian, if you're a striker and you scored 26 goals in a season for Rangers Football Club, you're entitled to expect some sort of silverware to come along with that. So that's not just all on him. The other players have had to take responsibility for that as much as anybody else. And so, moving into next season, if he's still here, then that's what we're going to have. He's going to be part of the squad. We will sign another striker, I have no doubt about that. But whether Dessers goes, for me, it's debatable.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think realistically, you're going to get maybe, what was it, 4 million for Dessers? So you'd be lucky to get your money back on him. Obviously, we bought him when he was 28, I think he was. So, and then you've got Dessers, who obviously we spent 6 million on, injured an awful lot of his time. So we're not going to make money on that either. It just seems to be a terrible. I wouldn't say. Well, is it terrible usage of wages? Kind of. I mean, as I say, it's a difficult with Dessers. He scores goals, but a lot for the likes of people like me and a few others, they don't feel Dessers gets the amount that he should necessarily get.
Brian, I quite say that you can't teach an old dog new tricks because of his age. People would say Coiste missed a lot at the start, and he did, right? I don't really remember that then because I was watching football later. But he was young. He got over that. He got better.
Right.
He didn't miss nowhere near as many. That's the problem, mate. Some of his Dessers misses have actually cost us. You need to look at the bigger picture. Eyes get figures, but there's more to football than just figures, isn't there? That's why I don't give a shit about XG. And then you look at the side of what he's missing.
Yeah, I mean, if as multiple ones just saying there, it's the team aspect that I've been worried about more. It's the defense and the goalkeeping situation that's been really costing us this year.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't label our problems solely on Dessers this year because that is genuinely unfair. Even I'll admit that. I mean, it's the defense and the goalkeeping situation that we need to address in the summer. That's the whole problem for me is the defense. We haven't had the same back five once in two games in a row, I don't think. and that should never be the case. Your defence should be the most sort of steady part of your defence out of the whole team. The right back, the centre halves, and the left back should be pretty much the same week in, week out. But we barely can play the same four for 2 games in a row. So for me, that's the biggest issue with the club just now, Connor.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, we'll need to wait and see on it. Paul saying Dessers realistically should have 40 goals this season.
Yeah.
Alexander there saying Kenny Miller missed plenty, but I tell you, I think the biggest mistake Kenny Miller made was leaving midway through the 2010-11 season to go to Bursaspor. I mean, he still got the Golden Boot for that season, incredibly, having only played half the year. But he was in the form of his life when he left, and I'm telling you, if he'd stayed, he'd have got 40 goals for Rangers that season, no problem at all.
Did he get paid when he went to Turkey? That's the
yes, well, I mean, yeah. That was just one of those weird things. We had played Bursaspor the year before. They obviously liked Kenny Miller and came in from, and because of the financial situation at the club at the time, that's why he got sold. Because I don't think Walter Smith or Ali McCoy wanted Kenny Miller off the books. But having said that, his replacement wasn't too bad, was he? Big Niko Jelavic.
Is that who signed a couple of players this season off as the same Turkish club? No, was it the summer there? Who was that? Lundstrom and Barisic, or the season before when they took the Turkish team.
Yeah.
Was it the same club? No, Trabzonspor. It might be the same club.
Trabzonspor.
Okay, right.
But Brian, you segued this nicely into a topic of conversation that I was going to bring up tonight. And you know, it's my ball, so I don't care. But you mentioned the goalkeeping situation. Liam Kelly obviously basically is the number one goalkeeper now after Jack Butland's howlers. But from what you've seen of Liam Kelly and the fact that I think he's been putting in very good performances. I know he had one sort of mistake he should have done better with, but I think overall he's been very, very good for us since he came in. Does that prove that Jack Butland should have been taken out of the squad earlier than he was? You know, I'm thinking, would it have made a difference to us, for example, if Liam Kelly was put in before, say, the cup final? I'm not saying it would have, but I'm just because at that point, you know, Butland's stock was plummeting as well, and you could have made a case for Kelly then at the time.
I think, as you say, Butland should have been relieved of the first team duties a long time before he was. He made a howler at the start of the season or the end of last season, I believe, and he's never seemed to recover from it. Say the end of last season, the start of this season, I can't remember. And he's never seemed to have recovered from them. It's just not. He's never looked as assured when he first came. He was coming for crosses. He was just dealing with everything as the goalkeeper should. But you can see lately that his distribution's been getting worse. He's been spilling just random sort of shots that you really wouldn't expect a goalkeeper his caliber to do. So at this moment in time, yeah, Kelly is the number one. But I think as somebody said in the comments earlier, I can't if I find it. Hold on. Oh, jeez. Yeah, here we go. You know, as James Cameron saying, Liam Kelly's not a Rangers' first choice keeper. You know, I think we'll all agree. I think he's a really good backup. I like his distribution, Liam. I don't think that's one thing you can level at him. But we need the new manager to come in and get a goalkeeper. That's, you know, Rangers have been renowned over the years for goalkeepers. You know, we had Woods, you know, Peter McCloy, Woods, Gorham, Kloss, McGregor. Our successful teams have always been, you know, built in good goalkeepers. So that's one thing that we should be looking at in the summer, definitely.
Just to add to that, Brian, I definitely agree with pretty much everything you've said there. Goalkeeping is my favourite position in the team. As I said before, one of the afternoon rabbles, McGregor's my favourite Rangers player. I think guy's absolutely brilliant, man. My sense of humour as well. But we deserve a better stand-up goalkeeper. Liam Kelly's done nothing wrong. I actually thought he had a really good game against Aberdeen, pulling off a couple of good saves, some nice touches. But we need better in the long run. We do, and that's just because we've done it to ourselves. We've set such a high caliber of goalkeeper in the past. We've had very few pish goalkeepers. They've been mostly good or brilliant, and I'm really, really proud of that fact. And I want us to keep that great tradition of goalies up. So Butland, for me, no, I'm sorry. Again, I don't think it's going to work with him. He won't want to sit on the bench. If we can get money for him, punt him on and keep Kelly as a backup and give him some games, because he's more than a sufficient backup, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think Liam Kelly, he's not a permanent solution as first choice goalkeeper. I think the way the season has went and the way that Jack Butland's season was starting to fall off the rails, I think it was a mistake from Clement and from Barry Ferguson to not throw Kelly in earlier and take Butland out the firing line, because it just felt like week after week it was going from bad to worse for Butland. How many times was he spilling it and just putting it straight into the path of an attacker? And it all started really in the cup final last year, when in the last minute he presented the ball to Adamida, costing us a trophy that day. And I don't think he recovered his confidence for there. Okay, let's have a look then, as the title suggests, who will be Rangers' next manager. Now, as always, take everything that you hear with a pinch of salt, because depending on what website you look on and where you look, there's names banded about everywhere. The odds keep changing constantly. But an interesting name has been thrown into the fray today, I think, or the last couple of days. The son of Carlo Ancelotti, David Ancelotti, who has worked under his father as an assistant coach at Bayern, at Real Madrid, most recently as well. I think he's had some. He's never had any managerial experience out on his own. He's basically just been his father's shadow for most of his managerial career. Brian, other than the fact he happens to have one of the most famous football managing surnames on the planet, is there any reason to think that would be a man you would appoint? And just for context, as far as I can see, I don't know. Well, there we go. I've just seen it there. So according to the Sun, take everything you read for the Sun and with a pinch of salt, by the way. He is 9-1 joint second favourite at the moment with Frank Lampard.
Yes. I mean, from all the reports and folk are saying in the comments, I've heard today that he's going to join his dad in being the assistant in Brazil. So I think that one probably quashes that sort of rumour nicely. So, I mean, if his name, if Davide is it Davide we're calling him?
Yes, well, that's it's spelled Davide. So I'm assuming it's Davide. Yes.
There was a similar player at Newcastle had a name like that, wasn't there?
Davide
Santon.
Davide Santon, yes. That's some good knowledge there, right?
Yes. So, no, I'm afraid if this guy's name was Carlo, then I'd be all over that, I'm afraid. But it's not Don Carlos, I'm afraid. So, no, I believe that this young lad is his assistant, and he's going to Brazil to be his assistant. So that kind of throws that in the fire. But I would, I mean, I've said it this afternoon as well. We need somebody to reestablish some standards and some winning mentality here. And out of the whole list that I see, I'm looking at the Bet36 Live 5 list now, and the favourite is clearly Mr. Gerrard at evens with Russell Martin 72. Now, if anybody in the comments tells me they would pick Russell Martin over Steven Gerrard, I would question I would question who you actually support.
Well, I think Shona agrees with you. She wants to bring Stevie G home. But some, there's one or two I've mentioned it being Russell Martin as well. But the funny thing is, right, Russell Martin was actually in Match of the Day 2 last night, and I was watching it. I was thoroughly enjoying it, as you can imagine. And to be fair to him, the man talks a lot of sense. See, as a pundit, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. But here's my concern with that, Trev. Michael Beale sounded like he knew what he was talking about until you put him in the dugout at Ibrox, and then it was an absolute catastrophe. A total unmitigating disaster, and that's where I have my concerns. Russell Martin done a great job getting Southampton into the Premier League. They struggled. I'm still not convinced they necessarily made the right call to sack him, because when you look at the fact it never improved and it actually got worse, they maybe should have just, took the Ipswich route, stick with him and try and fight on. I just don't think at this stage we can afford project managers.
We need to stop making this same bloody mistake over and over and over again. I mean, to be fair, the car salesman he would give any car salesman a run for their money. He talked the talk, man. I mean, it was a lot of shite at the end, really, but he talked a good game, and he must have just really convinced the board, like when he spoke to them or what's what, with very little experience. I'm not going to blame Beale for that. I'm going to blame the board for picking him and giving all that money. Like, yeah, I'm going to blame their hands down. But we do need more experience, man. We can't keep doing this. I'm not saying we go for a ultra experienced, boring kind of route here. Play it ultra safe. You want someone with a bit of pedigree, someone that you can trust, and someone that is going to be hanging about for a little bit. Danny Rowe for me would probably be the shout, based on what I've seen of him, what I've heard about him. It seems to be pretty decent. I listened to a podcast there at the weekend where they were speaking to a Sheffield Wednesday supporter, a podder there, and he was saying he's pretty good, but I think he's had enough. He's ready to move on. I generally don't know who it'll be, guys, because you read different things and all. It's not going to be anyone that's connected with Rangers. That's Stevie G out the window, if you believe that. I hope it is him, and I still think it will be him. Because if it's Russell Martin, I tell you what, lads, I'm going to pour bleach into my eyeball, or vodka in my eyeball, like Ivan Paul from Kevin and Perry Go Large.
Kevin and Perry.
What a movie that was, by the way, because it won't be vodka, it'll be bleach, because I can't watch that. I mean, I'm sorry. Our problem is not possession at the moment. We wouldn't be fixing anything. So I still think it's going to be Gerrard. I hope it's still be Gerrard.
Yeah, it might be. And always remember, folks, that all Trev wants to do is do it.
Big girl.
Do you know the thing is, O'Brien, right? I don't find the list of names particularly inspiring. I have to be honest with you, I really don't. I look at that list of names and I go, really? Is that the best we're looking at? Russell Martin, Stevie G, fair enough, I get the connection there. Frank Lampard, Marco Rose. I mean, Marco Rose, maybe. Danny Rowe, again, decent championship manager in England, but that doesn't mean jack when it comes to playing and being manager at Rangers Football Club, especially when you're looking at challenging for league titles. Because the thing is, if you manage a mid-table championship team in England, you can afford to lose one or two games. It's not going to be, career-ending for you, but at Ibrox, it's a totally different ballgame. And then you've got, Derek McInnes. I think you can scrap him off because I think it's almost certain that he's going to go to Hearts. Barry is down there in 20-1 alongside Gary O'Neill and Jose Mourinho. Jose would certainly bring the fireworks, Brian. Let's not kid ourselves. He would take no prisoners, that's for sure. And to be honest, I don't think he would take any Celtic shite either, Jose Mourinho, because he doesn't suffer fools lightly. So you might get that. I'm just not so sure you'd get the brand of football you want and whether that would bring necessarily with it the trophies. But I just, there's Blue Shadow, right? He's saying Gerrard's won one title in his time with us and was a disaster at Villa and in the Middle East. Convince me, Brian. Well, the floor is yours, Brian. The floor is yours.
Well, as I was saying earlier, Gerrard obviously won one title with us. I will say that when he left us, he had us 6 points ahead in the league in the November, I believe. Connor, is that correct?
Yep. 6
So
points. Yep.
we were 6 points clear in the league. Celtic at that point were still not looking great. Of course, then we went through the rigmarole of signing. I think we eventually got Van Bronckhorst. Van Bronckhorst then realised that we were doing better or playing better in Europe than we were in the league. So it seemed to be all systems went into the Europa run. Of course, we know what happened there. But I'm afraid, as somebody else said in the comments, we signed better quality players when Gerrard was here. He's able to attract a certain person or a certain player to come and play for him because of who he is. I dare say Frank Lampard can do the same at Coventry because of who he is. He can sign guys in the Championship. They'll say, "Oh, Frank Lampard wants me. I'm going to go and play for him." So it's just like that. I just feel when Gerrard was there, he didn't take any crap off the press. He didn't take, and he had stand. He was a sheer winner, and I'm afraid that is something we need right now. And out of the list that's there, he's the only one that seems to fit the bill, I'm afraid.
Well, yes, Shona making the point, Trev, that Stevie G did leave us 6 points ahead. That's true, he did. But, and here's my thing, right? I accept that Steven Gerrard will be forever considered a legend at Rangers for the mere fact that he stopped Celtic winning 10 in a row, and he didn't just stop them doing it, but he'd done it with an unbeaten league campaign, which is not an easy thing to do. And he got a winning mentality back again in terms of the Old Firm matches, because before he came in, we were just Celtic's pinata. That's all we were. We were their plaything. We did not compete. You get the odd game here or there. Graham Murray, oddly, seemed to be able to find ways of getting results against them when he came in, which was hilarious that one of the managers that Brendan Rodgers struggled to beat was Graham Murray, of all people. Just think of the bizarre one we're in. But the flip side of that, Trev, the season we won 55, that should have been a treble. I get we haven't been in the league, but it should have been a treble. You cannot go out against St Mirren and Paisley in the League Cup, and then you absolutely can't be getting put out at home to St Johnstone in a quarter-final, in extra time, when you've scored the goal to win the game through James Tavernier, and their goalkeeper comes up, and okay, he didn't technically get the goal, but he was heavily, heavily involved in it. It is ridiculous, and then the standard of the penalties that day was poor, and that was symptomatic of one of the big problems with Gerrard. He couldn't crack the cup competitions. Never once did he lead us out at Hampden Park in his 3 years there. That surely would be a bone of contention, because yes, you want to win the league title, that's the main thing, that's your bread and butter. But you want to be winning cups as well. How many trebles have we watched them win? I'd give my left bollock to watch us win a double next season, do you know what I mean? And I don't know if Gerrard, I don't know if Gerrard's the man that can do that for us, because his record wasn't great.
Well, the stats are usually there in black and white. It's kind of hard to argue against them. Any time a team like St Johnstone wins 2 trophies like that is it blows my mind. It really blows my mind, because I don't really think they're a great team. But I mean, it's a cup, so sometimes that happens. And you're right, he didn't capitalise on that. It's a different mentality, the cup, isn't it? That's why I like the Scottish Cup. I've never been a fan of the League Cup, but I like the Scottish Cup because it's a kind of something kind of magic about it, mysterious. Like potentially anyone on their day could win, no matter who it is. But he didn't do it when it was counted, and he did lead. You're right. People that said that chat, he did lead. We can't argue against that. And do you know something? For the longest time, boys, I was pissed off. I went, nah, Judas, you get to, you're not welcome back. You left us when the things were going well. We don't want you back. However, time's a healer. 1, 2, we found out that he didn't say it in his black and white. He wasn't getting the backing. That remember the famous quote? Fix the roof when the sun is shining, right? While he was absolutely still bloody dripping in champagne, speaking to Sky Sports at the time, mind that. And he didn't get back. The board didn't give him extra money. We should have pushed on there. We didn't. So while he still left, and that's a fact, he didn't get the money he should have got to actually push on. So if the board's not going to back him, that made his decision to leave that much easier. The only concern is that rat, the car salesman. And I was like, that's a stumbling block for me. The only way he'll be successful is if he has Beale back. You know that. It's been proven when Beale went on to management himself. He's done absolutely gas since then. So it's one of these situations, Connor, where he might have to come back, as much as I hate that, if he's part of the package, where he goes back into the background with the coaching and we never hear or see him. We know he's there, you know, like you want to make sure your kid's safe in the corner of the room, but you don't want to be hearing from him. It's the same with him. You get in that corner, you coach, but we don't want to say you're here for you. You take the good with the bad, mate. I think it's
that's all there, though, Trev. They're let's be honest, they will win their 6th treble in 9 years. Come at me all you want, Aberdeen fans. You know as much as anybody else, you will not turn up at Hampden. You get spanked by them the last time.
Get destroyed.
6-0, and it threw you off a cliff for the season. I'm sorry, I just don't give you much of a chance at all. But you know, 6 trebles in 9 years, having only won 3 in 130. So it's diluted the specialness of winning a treble by winning it so often. Just become okay. They won a treble. It's not even a special achievement anymore. Whereas time was, if a team won a treble, even if it was the aim through gritted teeth, you'd have to go like Martin Neal's team when he came in after the John Barnes saga and they won a treble. Listen, none of us liked it, but through gritted teeth, you at least had to say fair play. That's a very impressive achievement. Now it's not even an impressive achievement. You just expect it. That's a problem for us, and that's why I think you still need somebody who can compete on all fronts properly, because that's what Rangers should be doing. I'll bring this point for John McMillan to you, Brian. He says, do we always have to look backwards? Can we never look forward and forget about the romantic nonsense of being Rangers men or past players? Now, I take that on board. Mm-hmm. I think you can't always look backwards. It doesn't always work. Listen, it seems to have worked across the city because they looked backwards and brought back Brendan Rodgers. They brought back Jota, who seemed to come in and hit the ground running for them. Amongst other players, they're always linked that Kieran Tierney's coming back to them in the summer. So I think there are exceptions to every rule, is my point, Brian. But us as Rangers and with this takeover coming in, I think it is all going to be about looking to the future. And I think whoever gets the job, the aim will be for that to be a long-term solution and to stop the never-ending merry-go-round of managers. But that's why this decision is so crucial, because they have to get it right.
They have to, because as you said, they're marching on to treble 6 out of 9 seasons or whatever it was. And if we don't, let's be absolutely frank, if this takeover wasn't happening, that stat would just get worse, wouldn't it? That stat would just go through the roof.
Brian, don't.
So thankfully, well, let's hope that once this takeover is done, they appoint the right person, and let's hope that the next manager is backed sufficiently, not stupidly, not outrageously, just backed sensibly, that if he wants a player, they go after him and get him and back the manager. Because Gerrard wouldn't have left if he was backed. He always was, that's the other thing. If he was backed when he was asking, as you said, Trevor, fix the roof while the sun's shining. If he was back, if he was back sufficiently when he asked, this, we'd have been in the Champions League a couple of seasons, and then all of a sudden, it's a totally different conversation we're having. So,
that's a good point. Walter Smith did come back and win 3 titles in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
So we could say UEFA Cup final as well.
But he won a lot more first time round, to be fair.
He did, but to be fair, Trev, what he inherited the second time round was an absolute car crash. The first time round, he inherited a team that were on the up. The second time, he inherited a team that were in chaos after Le Guen. He managed to salvage the tail end of that season by going on a run. The next year, we were miles ahead in the league, and then because of Europe and taking its toll, we fell away. But he got that UEFA Cup final, and he still won a cup double that year, which I think is quite impressive given the amount of games that he had to play. And then, of course, we went on and won 3 titles in a row, including, of course, some doubles in there as well. He did enjoy the League Cup to do Walter, didn't he? It was his trophy. But
I
yeah,
mean, as I say, the reason why I'm so vociferous with Steven Gerrard is purely because the rest just fill me with fear. That's the only reason I'm saying Gerrard is the rest just don't fill me with any
There's
confidence.
no many choices.
That,
Good
that
ones.
they can mount us. They can get Rangers to mount a serious challenge. That's the basis of my argument. I just don't see how any of the other guys on the list are going to get us back to where we need. That's the simple fact. We need somebody in there who's going to get standards back, who's going to win games and compete in the league. And as far as I'm concerned, out of the list that's there, that knows the Scottish League as well, Stevie, he's your man.
Yeah, right. A couple of pieces of admin to do before we get towards the end of the show because we're nearly there. Firstly, a very own Tess has been a member for 10 months. Thanks very much, Tess. Very, very close to your year Rabble anniversary. Get liking the pod, everyone. Yes, please do. Like and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Of course, you can also become a member of the Rangers Rabble. And you don't have to be a Rangers fan, by the way, because I know there's some of you in there. All right, we all know, and you don't have to be a Rangers fan because we've got plenty of other shows, and that don't just talk about Rangers. If you become a member, you've got, you get watch-alongs to every match. You've got EPL shows. You've got a movie show. You've got Trev's Extreme Gaming podcast. If you're into your gaming and things like that. And plenty more besides that. You've got the wrestling as well, if you're a wrestling fan, because I know Dougal's in the comments that he'll slate me if I don't mention it. So by all means, you can become a member for us, as I say, as little as $1.99 a month. There's a couple of tiers, so you can choose. So it would be greatly appreciated if you did. But even if you don't and you can't afford to do that, it costs nothing to leave a thumbs up on the video and subscribe to the channel, and it would be very, very helpful as well. Walkout review with a £10 super chat. Thanks very much, Walkout. Trev, I'll throw this to you. Would you take Scott Parker?
I don't know enough about what he's done later on in his career. It's certainly a name that stands out, you recognise, but I don't know enough about what he's done later on in his coaching side of things. So I don't know if passing it to Bryan, if he knows enough about what he's done later on. So I can't comment enough, though. That's the only thing.
Scott Parker?
Yeah.
He did, well, he took over at West Ham, didn't he? Connor?
Was
it West Ham?
Yeah, it was the spells. He obviously, well, he was at West Ham for a while. He's been at Fulham was his first job. He got Bournemouth back up. In fact, he's got 3 promotions in his CV for the Championship. Fulham, Bournemouth. The Bournemouth situation was weird. They actually didn't get root. He left there after having a bit of a public blowout with the board because he didn't feel it had backed him enough in the summer. And he basically came out and said, after a couple of games, look, we're going down this season because we just ain't good enough to stay up. Now, he was actually proven wrong because when he left and they replaced him, and they did manage to stay up that season. And now, of course, Antonio Iraola is doing a magnificent job. And he's probably another one if he was on the market that would be worth looking at. Currently the Burnley boss, of course, and has overseen I think the best defensive record the Championship's ever seen. So, yeah, he's done some things. He's not going to be leaving Burnley, so I think he's a moot point, but he would be up there as a candidate. There's no question about that. And I believe there's another super chat. There was Chris also with a super chat, £5 super chat for Chris. Thanks very much, Chris. Much appreciated. Would you go for Nuno Espirito Santo if it goes sour for him at Forest? Gerrard got Villa at 17th, left them 17th. 2 points in one there. I mean, Nuno's not going to leave Villa, and I'm sure when we do the EPL show later this week, it'll be spoke about. I think that was a muchness yesterday with that. It was a chairman who maybe got a little bit over exuberant, but it was just a passion and frustration. They're going to be in Europe next year. And I tell you what, that is way above and beyond any expectation when Nuno came in. His job was to keep them up, and he's far and away surpassed that. So sadly, I don't think he's going anywhere. Would I take him if he was available? Judging by what he's done at Forest, why would you not? You'd have to have him in the conversation. I think you'd be churlish not to, Bryan.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody had Nottingham Forest down as possible, relegation candidates struggling to stay in the league sort of team. But I think it's fair to say that Nottingham Forest have surpassed everybody's expectations this year, and their own. The very fact that they're knocking on the door of a Champions League spot's remarkable. I mean, who would have thought at the start of the season that Nottingham Forest would be on the knocking on the door of Champions League football? Because I certainly wouldn't have, never even thought of them as even getting into Europe. So he's done a tremendous job there this season. I think as Ian said and a couple others, I think Espirito Santo is out of our range now. I'm afraid his stock's a little bit too high for us. So it would be nice, but I just don't see that happening, I'm afraid.
Well, listen, loads of things would be nice, Brian.
Yes.
That will do us, I think, for this evening, folks. I have thoroughly enjoyed that. Robert, I stand corrected. You're right. He did lead us out in the League Cup final when Julian scored that offside goal. I had forgot about that. I had tried to erase that from my memory, so thanks for bringing it back up for me, mate.
Was that also the game that Morelos missed a penalty?
Yeah, yes, it was. Yeah, when Frimpong got sent off, and I wonder what he's doing these days. But yeah, he did. But that was the one and only time.
What is this about a scoosh? What is this about a scoosh, boys?
I'll get to that because I know that people are vociferous in the comments. Don't worry, I haven't ignored you. I can see.
No, I don't know what it's about. I want to see this.
Wiggle is whipping up the mob against me here. Is what is happening. And just quickly, Robert, since you asked that question as well, who could we get if not anyone else? So the truth of the matter is, Robert, I off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you a name that isn't on the list. What I would say though, and it doesn't always work out this way, but Ange Postecoglou was not a name on the list for Celtic. And look what happened. He came in, he was very much a second choice because they spent months trying to get Eddie Howe, get it up them. And that didn't quite pan out. Ange came in and look, he done a great job. So you might find a diamond in the rough like that. You just never know. I just think it's not the most inspiring list I've seen. That doesn't mean these guys won't come in and do a good job. I'm just a fat guy on a podcast. I could be talking mince. I'm just saying it doesn't fill maybe loads of hope. But listen, that's for the Rangers board to decide, and we'll see going forward. Okay, since you've all asked for it, let's have a word from our sponsors.
This Rabble Network production was brought to you by Skush, Journey's fave. Need to give someone a wash? And remember, run that line and Skush. It's Journey's fave.
I've not seen that. How have I missed that? What the hell? That's brilliant.
Well done. Ian tweeted it originally for the Rabble Mania in WWE 2K24 for the Rabble Wrestling. Another thing you get, by the way, if you remember. And he's then just slightly tweaked it to just say the Rabble Network rather than the Rabble Mania. It is fantastic work from our very own Ian McDougall. It really is superb stuff. So well done to him.
Mm-hmm. Well done, mate.
I am going to end the show there, though, as much as I have enjoyed this. So thanks very much for joining us, folks. Trev, Brian, pleasure as always. Don't often actually get to do this with the two of you together, so that's a nice major pace for me. It's certainly nicer than Martin's face. The Rabble will be back at 12:30 p.m. tomorrow afternoon for your afternoon Rabble. I'm reliably informed it will actually be at 12:30 tomorrow because I know it was delayed this afternoon. And then, of course, you'll have your regular Tuesday night members show with our very own T100, Mr. Ian Thompson. So make sure you're tuned in there. And the ladies want to make sure they've got a fan handy because I'm told that, anyway. Until then, though, folks, enjoy the rest of the evening and we will see you.